me guess. You think PowerPoint dooms you to create death by PowerPoint. I mean, it's in the name, right? So it has to be true. Or maybe you feel like there's not much more left to learn when it comes to using PowerPoint because, I don't know, maybe you've been using it for decades. So what else could there possibly be? Either way, I hope to show you that you can create awesome presentations using PowerPoint and that there's probably some really great features that you just don't know about. So hello, I'm Dr. Echo Rivera, and I help academics, scientists, researchers, evaluators, similar professionals create engaging presentations. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the 7 things you probably didn't know PowerPoint can do that will make your next presentation pop. I'm so excited. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, especially if you want more presentation tips. All right, I'm going to show you more than 7 features, but I've broken it down into like 7 categories of cool things. So the first category is accessibility. One of the coolest accessibility features that PowerPoint has is live subtitles, which I've just activated right now. That's not YouTube. I did that through PowerPoint, and it's just one way to make your live presentations more accessible. So very cool, right? Not a lot of people know about this. And I have a whole video about the subtitles and testing them just to see how accurate they are. So if you want to see them in action even more than this, then check out that link in the description below. Now, if you need to share your actual PowerPoint file with people, then one thing you can do is add alternative text to any object on your slide, a photograph, a shape, a graph, whatever it is. And you can even mark it as decorative if it doesn't need to convey information. So that's great. PowerPoint also has an accessibility checker, which will flag things like which images don't have alt text or what's the reading order for screen readers and that kind of thing. So it's just another tool that you can use to make your files more accessible. So did you know that? Maybe that's new to you. Let me know in the comments. So in a way, at least having that subtitle feature is kind of like having rev.com built into PowerPoint, like a basic version, which is pretty cool. All right. So there's the accessibility category. Now let's talk about the next category, which is how PowerPoint helps you have awesome photos in your presentations. Tell me, have you seen presentation slides that look like this, where there's no visual? It's like, the most popular template in the world, right? Or it's smart art, which is, not really great. I have a whole blog post, several blog posts about how you should not be using smart art. There's, maybe it's like got some clip art or like those bubble people or, word clouds. That's like another one. And maybe it has some good visuals, but they're kind of formatted in a way that doesn't look very great. Or there's a lot of photos and they're just kind of all over the place. Okay. So, basically, have you seen death by PowerPoint? Yes, we all have. But the thing is this PowerPoint's fault? Because these were also made in PowerPoint. Highly visual slides, custom visuals using shapes and icons and all sorts of great PowerPoint features. So this looks a lot better, right? Made in PowerPoint, just like the other ones. And the slides that you're seeing right now, this whole video presentation, this is a PowerPoint. So again, I'm trying to show you that PowerPoint does not doom you to create bad presentations. So let's take this last section, for example, where I talked about the accessibility features. I could have presented it using this type of slide, right? This is the way most people present, but I didn't. What did you see? Well, you saw highly visual slides to talk about this information. Okay, so that was I can make either one of those in PowerPoint. I chose to make the highly visual, engaging presentation. And PowerPoint has some fantastic tools to help you have excellent photo design stuff in your presentation. So PowerPoint has built in icons, photos, illustrations, and more that make for excellent visuals. I highly recommend that you check this out. They will absolutely help you create engaging presentations, and it's just sitting there in PowerPoint waiting for you. So what is faster than that? I mean, I love it. In PowerPoint, you can crop photos, which is definitely something you want to get good at. And what's even cooler is that you don't have to just crop a photo normally. You can, in PowerPoint, crop into a shape. So very neat. And again, there's even more photo editing tools. If you have a bad looking photo that you've taken yourself, which I have a lot of those, well, you can do some basic corrections. You can do some basic adjustments, maybe even some filters like a color filter, or you could just default to black and white, which can make bad photos look better. So that is really helpful. That I've definitely used that before. And even better, in PowerPoint, you can remove backgrounds. So again, just like another example of some great photo editing tools that can really help make your presentation pop. And I'm going to show you an example of why you would even want to do this later on in the video. So if you're like, so what, who cares? Wait until I show you sort of a cool idea I had. But for now, let me just, again, say that your PowerPoint can actually be highly visual and have great photos. And in a way, some of these features are it's kind of like having a little bit of basic Photoshop in PowerPoint. All right. Okay. So the next category that I want to talk about is interactivity, or engaging your audience. So, question for you. Have you ever been to a presentation, a course lecture or conference presentation, and thought to the presenter, you are just talking too much, right? Just stop. Give me a second, right? And you probably feel this on a deeper level when it's a webinar, right? But, I have a question, which is, where in PowerPoint does it say you can never engage with your audience, right? Where is that? Because that feature doesn't really exist, right? Think about it. Have you ever been working on your slides and then thought, oh, I should ask my audience a question here. I should check in with them here, only to have PowerPoint be like, no, you cannot do that, right? No, PowerPoint doesn't stop you from doing that. So not interacting with the audience, that's not PowerPoint's fault. And by the way, that was the original image. I used the remove background feature to make it just the circle. There's just one example of how that everyday tool comes in handy. All right, moving on. I also wanted to say, PowerPoint doesn't stop you from creating interactive presentations, right? Nothing is stopping you from creating a slide that you use as a specific engagement prompt. And, many platforms do allow you to add tools or to add polls. So it's not a conflict with PowerPoint, right? Zoom, for example, lets you add a poll, and it doesn't matter what slide software you're using, or even if you are using slide software, you just add it through the webinar software. But also, PowerPoint actually has a feature that encourages you to be more interactive with your audience and to make it easy for you to do that. It's called the Zoom feature in PowerPoint. An unfortunate choice, especially given Zoom, the meeting app, they are different. But basically, with the Zoom feature in PowerPoint, you can go through your presentation out of order, and you can basically set it up so that the audience chooses what they're most interested in, which section you talk about next, and you can basically have them choose their own adventure. It is super cool, and I have a whole separate video about that. Link is in the description below if you want to see an example. And the best news is it takes like 3 clicks to set it up. It is so fast and so easy to use, and you can make your presentations interactive. So in that sense, having this Zoom feature in PowerPoint is kind of like having the good parts of Prezi in PowerPoint. Not the spinning parts, but the parts where you can go out of order and let the audience choose what order to go in. Okay, so you can do interactions with your audience using PowerPoint. What's the next category? Animations. Oh, so excited to talk about this. Okay, question for you. Have you seen slides that look like this, where everything came in on a wild nonsense animation and there were silly transitions on like every slide? And you were just like, stop. Right? But again, tell me, where in PowerPoint is it saying you have to use all the animations and the worst animations, right? It doesn't. And in fact, when used properly, animations and even some transitions can prevent death by PowerPoint. I know. So, the thing is you just have to use the right types of animations, okay? There are good animations. There are bad animations. There are situations where you don't use animations. There are situations when you do use animations. So it's not an all or nothing thing. There is a middle ground. And if you learn how to do it well, you can reduce overwhelm among your audience, which is absolutely a great strategy to have an engaging presentation. I mean, think about it. If your presentation is overwhelming, it's probably not going to be very engaging. And it also just looks like you put effort into your slides. So for a high stakes presentation or a situation where you really want to impress the audience, having really nice, good animations and transitions can help accomplish that goal. And for example, right, there is a feature in PowerPoint where you can draw on the slide and then animate it so it looks like you actually drew it. Okay, it's called the Draw tab and Ink Replay. Again, I have a whole video just about this, showing you this animation and everything, but people love drawings. And this is just an animation, but it looks so nice and will help keep the presentation engaging and, reduce that overwhelm. So, okay, by now, you might be wondering, why should I bother with any of this? Like, this just seems like excessive. I don't need to do this for my course lectures. Well, let me just show you a couple ways that I've sort of used all of these features on a few different slides just to, maybe inspire you or show you how cool your slides could look if you used all of these together. So I specifically used the features that I talked about in the photos section and some animations. So let's say I wanted to do a talk about my research on hiking and mental health, right? I could do a slide like this, okay? So just like a nice, subtle little touch where I share my data and, I have like a nice, cool picture to go along with it. What do you think? If you thought that was cool, give it a thumbs up. Here's another one. Maybe I want to talk about how play is important for child development. So then maybe I do a slide that looks kind of like this. And this is pretty memorable, right? Like imagine this as a opening slide to hook the audience or a closing slide so that they actually remember sort of the key point for my presentation, right? Like you wouldn't do this for every slide. This would be sort of for like big moments in your presentation or course lecture even. Or if I really want to step it up, I could do something like this about talking about how soccer is really great for mental health, okay? Again, maybe I want to make the point that, sports is worth investing in for schools. Slides like this are more likely to resonate with the audience and make an impact versus those slides that we looked at earlier that were just bullet points on a template, right? So for, important presentations or presentations where maybe you're struggling to get people to care about the topic, or you just really want to make an impact, knowing some of these tools in PowerPoint can really help take things to the next level. And again, before you're like, I don't have time to do this, I'm not saying you would do this for the entire presentation, I promise, but just a few selective moments really can take your presentation to the next level. Okay. So in that way, it's kind of like having some basic Adobe After Effects in PowerPoint, which I love. All right, so there's animations. Let's talk about the next category, which is custom visuals. Okay, have you ever tried to make a Venn diagram and you thought you basically had two options? You just put two shapes, two circles, overlapping, and adjust the transparency, right? We've all done this. Or you thought you had to use smart art, okay? And smart art, just as a heads up, basically does that same thing. So basically, the option here for both of them is like overlapping transparent shapes, okay? Okay, here's the thing. Both of these are very bad design. I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but honestly, look, you should not be using smart art. Please, if you use smart art, check out my blog post about it so that you can see the problems with it and see some examples of what to do instead. But yeah, a Venn diagram is just sort of a perfect example of how smart art doesn't actually help. And it's better if you just do your own design, and you can do it using PowerPoint features. Specifically, the features where you can edit shapes and create custom visuals in PowerPoint. So for this example, the most relevant one is fragmenting shapes, okay? This is so awesome, where basically you can overlap objects in PowerPoint, click that fragment shapes tool, and it will break them up into separate pieces. Why would you want to do that? Okay. All right, here's the example of just overlapping colors. And when you present this, you have to do things like look at the overlap between the pink and the blue. It's that kind of like purple shaded area, right? Like your only choice really is to verbally describe where you want your audience to look. And you might be tempted to use a laser pointer, but you should not be using that. That tends to annoy people quite a bit. So really, you just have your speech to rely on. But if you were to fragment those shapes, then you can actually design that middle slice as a separate shape. Okay, you have more control over the design. So this is actually 3 pieces, which means you can do something really nice, like make those 2 sides gray and then highlight the middle part in purple. Okay. And so again, now it becomes so much more obvious to your audience which part that you're talking about. Okay, so that's just one example of so many ways that you can use this feature to just make your presentation a lot easier for people to follow along with. And there's more than just fragment. You can merge shapes together. You can use them to like subtract and like cut pieces out and to make unique shapes. So this is how you can make your own custom visuals in PowerPoint. And then you have a lot more control over what colors you use and the design of those things. So you can like make your own icons even. The possibilities are endless for your creativity. Okay. All right. So in some ways, having that feature is kind of like having a little bit of Adobe Illustrator in PowerPoint, like the basics, but still it comes in handy. Okay. The next category is, of course, about data visualization. Okay. We are sharing data in our presentations. We're educators, we're academics, we're scientists, we're researchers, evaluators. That means we're working with data. So again, question for you. Have you seen slides with data that look something like this, where it's a table, like just a table in PowerPoint, again, something that should be avoided, or a graph with just like information overload, just like a data dump with all the colors and you don't even want to look at it? Or for my qualitative friends, giant quotes. And then just other types of just like outdated design, like exploding or 3D charts, or, again, just like a colorful bar graph and just like a plain looking bar graph, right? So we've all seen these kinds of, death by PowerPoint data visualizations. But again, I ask you, is that PowerPoint's fault? Because I was also able to use PowerPoint to make data visualizations that look like this. Okay, so take a quick look at all of these examples. I made them exclusively in PowerPoint. That is all I used for these. So once again, I feel like we're placing quite a bit of blame on PowerPoint when really it's just how people are using it. And PowerPoint really does let you make beautiful data visualizations. You can change the defaults in your graphs. I promise you. You can redesign them and restructure them and make them look gorgeous. You can use multiple features and strategies to share qualitative data in really engaging ways. You can hack charts to make different kinds of charts and really take your data to that next level, all in PowerPoint. So in PowerPoint, you really do have the power to create easy to understand and memorable data visualizations. You just need to know what to do and then how to make PowerPoint do it. So again, I mean it when I say you can create engaging slides with data in PowerPoint. All right, so in that way, it's kind of like having some basics of Tableau in PowerPoint, which is awesome. Okay, one more category, which is saving time. So if you're still here, you're awesome. And I bet you're wondering, okay, this is cool, but this looks like it's going to take forever. I just don't have that time. Like, this is just not for me, right? Maybe you look at this chart and think, I don't have time to customize this and to do all of that. Well, it could take forever if you don't know how to use PowerPoint in a way where you can actually save your own presets, all right? You can design data in a way and then save that and then apply that to another graph, okay? You can do presets for graphs. You can do presets for shapes. You can do presets for text boxes. You can create your own slide layouts in PowerPoint. And again, there's those built-in icons, photos, and illustrations that I mentioned earlier. So all of these actually work together and you end up saving time and you create better presentations, like significantly better presentations in the same amount of time that you were spending before. Okay, PowerPoint has some great time-saving features. So in some ways, because you're automating some of those design presets, it's kind of like having Zapier in PowerPoint. Now, obviously, these are all very basics of each of these apps. But again, if you were sitting here wondering, this is too excessive for what I do, I don't need this for class lectures, I would say creating engaging class lectures is definitely worth your time. And that's what's so great about PowerPoint is look at all the power you have. Yes, these are all very basic, photoshopping features in PowerPoint, but that is all you need, right? If it is a class lecture or a conference presentation, you don't necessarily need to go into Illustrator to create your own visuals, right? Because that would be a lot probably. But most of the time, it can help just to be oh, I'm just going to do a little bit of fragmenting and now I can design my Venn diagram a little bit better. And your audience will love it and it will be worth the effort. Okay. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed learning about all of these features in PowerPoint. Hopefully you learned at least one new thing that PowerPoint can do that you didn't know about before. Because look, PowerPoint has tools to help you with accessibility, photo design, interacting with your audience, great animations, if you use the right ones. Custom visuals and custom shapes, data visualizations, and even ways for you to save time while doing it. Okay, this is why I use PowerPoint. And again, you've watched a PowerPoint today. So if you felt like PowerPoint was the reason slides were boring in the past, well, now you know the truth. Because And honestly, the truth is you can make an engaging presentation no matter what slide software you're using. The software you use never makes or breaks a presentation. It is always how you use it. So yeah, I hope this actually gets you excited about unlocking a bunch of potential that you never even knew existed in PowerPoint. And if you are interested in training on how to use PowerPoint in this way, or, what to do to make an engaging presentation, I am here for you. I have lots of training options. Check out the link in the description below. And I'm curious, tell me, did this video show you that a PowerPoint could possibly be engaging or that you learned something new? Let me know. I want to hear from you. And again, I hope that this is just the start of a new approach for you for how you create presentations. If you enjoyed this video, then the next best step for you is to take my free training. So again, like everything, the link is in the description below. But yeah, if you want to do better presentations, then check out my free training. It is the best next step. All right, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.